The room went silent when a small voice rose above the music. "Please don't marry my mom," the little girl said. "She wants to take your money. She told Auntie Kiki that after the wedding she will make you sign everything, then she will leave." Ethan's smile froze. His hand was still in midair holding the ring box. Theresa, glamorous in a gold lace dress, nails like tiny knives, didn't turn to look at her daughter. She fixed her eyes on Ethan as if the girl's words were only smoke. The guests, dressed in bright ankara and clean suits, shifted in their chairs. The hall at the Palm Court in Victoria Island smelled of jollof rice and perfume. A saxophonist coughed and lowered his horn. Someone's phone stopped recording. The little girl Mara stood in patent shoes that clicked when she walked. She was 9. Small but steady. Her braids were tied with white beads that clicked too, like a drum counting the truth. She moved to the center of the aisle, the place they had cleared for the couple to dance in after the proposal. Her brown face was tight with worry, but her eyes didn't shake. "Ethan," Mara said, speaking to the man everyone said was lucky, the man everyone said had a good heart. "Please listen. Mommy is playing a mind game with you." Theresa finally turned, a soft smile on her mouth but not in her eyes. "Baby," she said, voice sweet, "come and sit. You're tired." "I'm not tired," Mara said. I heard you on the phone." Auntie Kiki, round and quick, rose from her seat as if she could scoop the moment away and hide it in her handbag. "Children say things," Kiki said, laughing too loud. "She doesn't understand love." Ethan looked at Theresa, then at Mara. He had never seen the child like this. Mara used to be shy around him, whispering to her mother before she spoke. Now she stood alone and brave, as if she had one chance to throw a rope to a man standing by a river. "Mara," Ethan said carefully. "Who told you to say that?" "No one," she replied. "You told me once that truth is a seed. If you hide it, it won't grow. I don't want you to fall in a ditch." A murmur ran through the hall, words like ditch and scam, and Ethan, be careful, hissed by the air conditioners. The MC cleared his throat and said too brightly, "Children and their stories. Let's clap for our beautiful couple." "Quiet," Theresa said softly, and the MC sat down. She stepped forward and cupped Mara's cheek. "You're confused, sweetheart. We talked about this. We want a family. You want that too." Mara pulled back. "I want a family that is not a trap." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He looked again at Theresa. She was beautiful, yes. Smart. She knew when to laugh and when to be gentle. She had walked into his tech hub 6 months ago with a charity pitch and a storm behind her eyes. He had wanted to be the umbrella. He forced his voice to be calm. "What phone call, Mara?" "The one in the kitchen 2 nights ago," Mara said, turning to the crowd. "Mommy said, don't worry, after ring and pictures he will rush everything. Men in love don't read papers. I will make him change the property names to mine, and we will disappear. She said you're a good man and good men are easy to turn." Gasp. A chair scraped. The saxophonist whispered, "Yezu." Theresa's face did not change. "Lies," she said. "Kiki." Auntie Kiki placed a hand on her chest. "The child has been watching those internet videos. YouTube has spoiled many homes. Ethan, please. You know Theresa loves you." Ethan closed the ring box. He hadn't realized how loud a small click could sound. He spoke to the room, but his eyes stayed on Mara. "Why tell me here? Why not before?" Mara swallowed. "Because you don't hear me when she's holding your hand." The words struck him like stones wrapped in flowers. He remembered last week the small questions he had brushed away. Why was Theresa pushing him to move money fast? Why did she want his mother's old house in Yaba listed under their future family trust before the wedding? Why did Kiki always sit close when they discussed documents? He had called it love moving fast. He had said to himself, love rewards bravery. Now the child's voice had put steel in those questions. Theresa took Ethan's hand with a soft firmness he knew well. "Baby," she said, "this is cruel. You know my ex broke me. This little girl has seen me cry. Maybe she's scared of losing me. Children make up stories when they feel change. Please, not in front of everyone." Her tone reached for his kindness. It had never missed before. Ethan felt the pull. Love is a river, he thought. You can drink or drown. He looked at Mara again. "Do you have proof?" Mara nodded, surprising them all. She reached into the front pocket of her small purse and brought out a cracked phone. It wasn't hers. It was Theresa's old phone, the one Mara used sometimes to play candy games. She tapped, hands shaking a little, and held up a voice note. The room watched as Ethan pressed play. Nothing came out. A dead phone. Auntie Kiki exhaled, relieved. Theresa smiled softly as if to say even the truth gets tired. I charged it, Mara whispered. This morning. Ethan looked at the little black screen and for a second hated batteries, sockets and the laws of power. It's fine, he said, voice dull. We can talk later. Let's. Wait, an elderly woman said from the back. It was Mama Saad, the caterer, the one who had known Theresa since she was a teenager selling puff-puff after school. She walked forward with a slow certainty. I have heard enough weddings crack like cola nut, she said. When a child speaks from her chest, adults should borrow ears. Theresa laughed, quick, thin. Mama, please. Not you too. Mama Saad stood between the couple and the child. Let us sit. Let us breathe. Let us hear the river before we build the bridge. The hall obeyed the old rhythm of elders. People sat. The saxophonist put down his horn. The MC sipped water. Somewhere outside, a generator coughed and settled. Ethan's mind raced back to the day he met Theresa. The tech hub had hosted a small grand event for community projects. Theresa arrived in a simple dress with a clean proposal, a scholarship program for girls in Bariga. She spoke with fire and order. He admired both. They started with meetings, then lunch, then late calls. She knew how to hold silence like a delicate plate, never dropping it, always offering more food for his hope. When Mara finally joined them at an ice cream place on Awolowo Road, the child sat quiet, eyes curious. Theresa called her my star. Ethan thought, this is a family I can heal and build with. He remembered the first time Mara reached for his hand while crossing the busy street by Eco Hotel. He had felt a sudden fatherhood tug at him. He was 32, head of a small but growing tech company, son of a retired teacher and a nurse, a man who had learned to fix things. He loved building. He loved saving. It was his blessing and his weakness. Theresa understood that. She had looked at him the way thirsty land looks at rain. He gave and gave. Now the child who had once clutched his fingers was using them to pull him back from the edge. Theresa faced the room like a queen before a noisy court. If I wanted to take his money, she said, calm and sad, would I bring my daughter here to expose me? Would I stand under God and family? Please. This is an attack on a woman who has struggled. I have faced men who called me names, who left me with a child in debts. I found a good man, and jealousy arrived in small shoes. A few guests nodded, soothed by her music. Others frowned, measuring the weight of each word. Ethan felt split in two. On one side stood the woman he had chosen, who had touched the broken corners of his life and brought laughter to them. On the other side stood a child who had no reason to lie, whose world would also break if he walked away. He looked down at the ring box. He had chosen a ring that caught light like morning on the Lagos Lagoon. He had imagined it on Theresa's finger while Mara giggled and took photos. He had imagined the three of them dancing, while friends clapped and called them a story that made sense. He lifted his head and found Mara's eyes again. She didn't look angry. She looked like a small lantern in a deep, windy night. Okay, Ethan said. We pause. We breathe. We listen. Theresa's hand tightened on his arm. Don't do this, she whispered. Not here. Not now. Now is the only time truth likes, Mama Saad said. Later is where lies become furniture. Auntie Kiki stood, voice sharp. Enough. We're not in a village square. This is an engagement. People have traveled. There is food. There is a plan. Ethan, be a man. Decide. The hall leaned forward. Ethan nodded once. He turned to the DJ. Please mute the music. He looked at the MC. Give me 5 minutes. He looked at Mara. Come with me. He looked at Theresa. You too. They walked to a quiet corridor behind the hall where the hum of the generator became a steady drum. The light was softer there, colored by a window tinted gold. A cleaner pushed a mop and pretended not to listen. Ethan held out his palm to Mara. The phone. She placed it in his hand. He tried to power it on again. The screen blinked, held a faint glow, and then, like a tired eye, closed. He exhaled. Theresa stepped closer, low voice, urgent and sweet. My love, this is madness. You are letting fear write our chapter. I would never hurt you. You know me. Mara stood her ground. But I know her better. Ethan looked from mother to child. He had built companies by trusting the data, not the dream. He had built friendships by trusting the human, not the rumor. Both had saved him. Both had burned him. He wished for a sign that didn't ask him to choose between the two loves in front of him. The cleaner's mop slapped the tile once, twice, as if counting down. Fine, Ethan said. We do something simple. Theresa, let me see the papers you want me to sign after the proposal. Let me call my lawyer now. If it is clean, we return and I get on one knee. If not, we stop. Theresa's eyes flickered, just a small blink, fast as a lizard on a hot wall. You don't trust me? I do, he said. And trust is not afraid of light. She hesitated. Then she reached into her clutch and brought out a brown envelope, thicker than Ethan expected. She pressed it to her chest. Ethan, not here. Here, he said gently. Where truth likes to stand. Theresa handed him the envelope. He opened it. Inside were typed documents with clean lines and cold words. He scanned the first page. Then the second. On the third page the letters sharpened like knives. Something about irrevocable authority, something about transfer, something about sole discretion, something that turned a promise into a trap. Ethan's breath slowed. The corridor seemed to tilt. He read a line again, then again, and the words did not change. He lifted his eyes to Theresa. She watched him with a face she had always worn, soft, almost wounded, asking to be rescued. But now it sat beside another face, one he had never seen in the open. Explain this, he said quietly. Theresa parted her lips. The cleaner's mop froze mid-air. Before she could speak, a ringtone burst from Auntie Kiki's handbag. She had followed them, peeking from the doorway. The sound was a cheerful high-life tune. On the screen, a name flashed fast before she could cover it with her palm. Property man, balance due. Kiki killed the call with a slap and looked up, caught in the yellow light like a moth. Ethan turned the page and saw a final clause, underlined in blue ink, and his name printed beside a signature line that was not his. He stared at the signature. It was his handwriting. It was also not his. Then from the hall, a wave of voices rose, loud, urgent, moving like a storm. Someone screamed. Glass broke. The saxophonist's horn blurted a frightened note. The generator stuttered. A man ran into the corridor, eyes wide. Ethan, he shouted. Come quickly. The safe box for the gifts. Someone just found it empty. The cleaner dropped her mop. Mara grabbed Ethan's sleeve. Aunt Theresa, without thinking, reached for the envelope in his hand. He did not let go. Ethan didn't let go of the envelope. Theresa's fingers stayed on the flap, gentle but pressing, as if she could pull back time with a soft touch. From the hall, the noise grew, chairs scraping, heels rushing, voices rising like water in a storm drain. The MC called for calm. No one listened. The cleaner picked up her mop with shaking hands and slid away, invisible like smoke. Ethan, please, Theresa said. People are panicking. They'll blame me for anything now. Give me the papers so I can keep them safe. Safe is with me, he said. He kept his voice steady. We will read them with my lawyer. Auntie Kiki stepped into the corridor, fixing her headscarf. Her smile was thin. Let's not fight over paper when the gift box is gone, she said. We need to show face before the guests turn this hall into a market. Mara moved closer to Ethan's side, small hand on his sleeve like an anchor. Don't leave me, she whispered. I won't, he told her. He meant it for the child, he meant it for the truth. Security guards ran past, one speaking into a radio. Lock the exit. Tell Gate they don't let anybody leave. A waiter, breathless, pointed toward the bathroom corridor. I saw a man with the box, big man in blue suit. Another insisted, no, it was a slim lady with a shawl. Confusion ran like rats. Ethan tucked the envelope under his arm and led them back into the hall. The music was off. The flowers looked wrong without sound. Guests stood in small clusters, whispering in English and Yoruba, some filming, some pretending not to. On the gift table, a square of dust showed where the safe box had sat. In the corner, the saxophonist held his horn like a baby, eyes wide. Mama Saad stood by the stage, steady as a drum. She raised a palm and the noise thinned. We will not scatter, she said. People will check bags at the door. We will sit and call names. We will find the thief if we keep our heads. The hall obeyed the elder again. A guard climbed on a chair. Please form a line, he shouted. Security will check politely. Nobody leaves without search. Theresa touched Ethan's arm. Please, she said low. This is my event. If your guests see you holding secret papers while money has disappeared, they will say you came to accuse me. Give me the envelope. Be the man who trusts. Ethan met her eyes. In them he saw tiredness he had learned to respect, hunger he had wanted to feed, fear he could not name. He looked down at the document peeking from the flap. Irrevocable authority. The words felt like hands closing. Be the woman who is not afraid of light, he said, echoing his own line back at her. For one long breath, Theresa held his gaze. Then she smiled, small and sad. Okay, she said. Keep it. It almost sounded like love. They moved toward the stage where the MC tried to speak like a pastor on a bad day. "My people, it is well," he said. "We will do this thing in order." "Start with me," Auntie Kiki interrupted, swinging her handbag onto the table. She opened it wide. Lipstick, gum, a power bank, a small notebook. "See? Nothing." She grinned at the crowd. "Please don't check me twice. I'm very cooperative." One by one, guests allowed their bags and pockets to be checked. The guards were careful, but the heat in the room still rose. Suspicion makes air heavy. Ethan's friend, Tund, finally reached him through the crowd. He wore a navy blazer and worry. "Guy," he said in a low voice, "the event coordinator says there's CCTV. The gift table faces a small camera near the flower wall." Ethan nodded. "Let's see it." They followed Tund to a small office behind the stage where a screen glowed, showing different angles of the hall in quiet colors. The coordinator clicked back 2 minutes, then 5, then 10. The camera above the gifts showed a neat table, bows and baskets, the shiny safe box in the center. People walked past, smiling, leaving envelopes. Then the click of time found the moment. The corner emptied for a breath, and a single figure stepped into frame, fast and sure. It was a man in a dark suit. He didn't look around. He lifted the safe as if he knew the weight. He slid it into an event trolley, covered it with a tablecloth and pushed it out of frame. His face turned once, just for a second, toward the camera. Ethan saw his own jawline. Tund sucked in air. "Ah." The coordinator reached for the keyboard, zooming awkwardly. The image sharpened. The man's profile was clear. The suit was very like Ethan's, same cut, same lapel pin. The face could be his cousin. The way the man moved even had a familiar rhythm. In the hall, a guard shouted, "Close the gate." The MC knocked the microphone by accident. It popped and hissed. Tund pointed at the screen. "That's not you, but, my brother, it looks like you." Ethan felt the floor tilt again. "It's a copy," he said slowly. "Someone dressed like me." "Or they used your jacket," Tund said. "You left it on a chair earlier." Ethan remembered. When he had gone to speak with the DJ before the proposal, he had placed his jacket on the back of a seat to help carry a box of roses. He had not put it on since. He swallowed. "Rewind to the corridor camera," he told the coordinator. "Who pushed the trolley out?" They switched feeds. The corridor showed bodies moving like fish in a narrow stream. Waiters, cousins, a photographer. There, the trolley rolled by, the white cloth smooth and innocent. The person pushing it wore the same dark suit, the same lapel pin. The camera caught the man's face for half a second as a waiter moved aside. The office became colder. Tund said it first. "Guy, that's you." It was Ethan's face. The eyes, the cheek, the small scar near the eyebrow from a childhood bicycle fall. The mouth set in the calm line he used when solving problems. Mara stood on her toes to see. She stared at the screen, then at Ethan's real face, then back. "It's not you," she said, firm. The coordinator scratched his head. "Is it old footage?" he asked, uncertain. "Today's date is on it," Tund replied, pointing at the timestamp. It read the current time. Ethan's mind clicked through every possible path at once. A double? A mask? A face swap? The event coordinator's system was basic, not a place for deep-fake trickery. But the picture had the clean, simple confidence of truth. It did not blink like a lie. "That's impossible," he said softly. From the hall came a new wave of sound. Accusation has its own music. Someone shouted, "Where is the groom-to-be?" Another voice, "Check him too." Feet pounded toward the office. Mara gripped his sleeve harder. "Don't let them take you," she said. He took a breath and felt his chest fight him. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Next time, read before you sign." A second message arrived. A single photo of the corridor, high angle, showing him standing with Theresa and Mara by the mop bucket. It had been taken less than 15 minutes ago. He turned the screen to Tund. His friend frowned. "Who has this angle?" "The small camera above the service door," the coordinator said slowly. "Only I have access. And the hotel supervisor." "Who is the supervisor?" Ethan asked. "Her name is Tonia," the coordinator replied. "But she left an hour ago. Family emergency." Ethan felt the air thin. He looked at Theresa, who had followed them into the office with Auntie Kiki. She stood near the door with arms crossed, face calm and elegant, as if posing for a painting. She had not said a word since they entered. Now she spoke, voice soft as silk. "Ethan," she said, "you have enemies? You have a business. People want to bring you down. Maybe someone came here to shame you. Maybe, even that little girl confused by fear helped them without knowing. Mara flinched. Ethan shook his head. No. She told me the truth. Theresa's lips curved, not quite a smile. The truth is a mirror. Sometimes it reflects what we already suspect. A knock slammed the office door open. 2 security guards entered with a hotel manager in a dark tie. Behind them, a few guests tried to peer in. The manager's smile was professional and sad. Sir, he said to Ethan, we need your cooperation. The camera shows someone who looks like you moving the safe. Please allow us to take a statement. For fairness, we will also ask to search you and your car. Tun stepped forward. He's not running. He's right here helping. I understand, the manager said. But the guests are angry. If we don't move with order, they will move with noise. Ethan looked at Mara. The child's eyes were wide but steady. If you go with them, she said, Mom will finish her plan. Theresa blinked, pain washing over her face like a soft cloth. Mara, she whispered, why do you hate me? I don't, the girl said. I love you enough to stop you. The manager cleared his throat. Sir. Ethan straightened. His mouth tasted like old coins. He breathed in the stale air of the small office and thought of his father's sayings. If you run from smoke, you run into fire. If you stand, wind will pass. If you tell the truth, hold water in your mouth so you don't swallow your words. Okay, he said. I will cooperate. But we also keep these. He lifted the envelope. And we call my lawyer now. Of course, the manager said, nodding. They stepped back into the hall. Heads turned like sunflowers following light. A few people clapped, mocking or relieved, it was hard to tell. The guards led Ethan toward a side door for privacy. Tun stayed close. Mara tried to follow, but a lady in a purple ghillie put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Stay with me, small star, she said. Theresa slid to Ethan's side, voice low. Give me the papers so you don't lose them in their office, she said. I'll keep them. I promise. Her eyes shone, wet and bright. Ethan almost laughed, but there was no laughter left. No, he said. They reached the side door. A guard held it open. The corridor beyond was narrow and quiet, leading to a small security room. A camera above the frame blinked red. Ethan stepped through. In the space of one heartbeat, the lights went out. Darkness dropped like a curtain. A chorus of gasps rushed through the hall. The generator coughed, failed, coughed again. For a long second, the only sound was breath and the small ring of someone's dropped spoon hitting tile. Hands brushed Ethan in the dark. Someone grabbed his wrist, hard. He turned, but the body was fluid, practiced. He felt the envelope twist in his grip. No, he said, rough. He pulled back, found a shoulder, and pushed. The person hissed and slipped away like a fish, using the wall to guide their speed. The lights blinked, stuttered, then returned in a weak yellow. Faces came back, pale and shocked. The envelope was still in Ethan's hand, ripped at the corner, one sheet hanging like a torn tongue. Theresa stood 3 steps away, breathing fast, hands empty. Auntie Kiki was nowhere in sight. From the opposite end of the corridor, a guard shouted, Stop! Hey, stop there. Ethan looked past the guard and saw, for a split second, a figure in his suit jacket, running toward the service exit with the event trolley, tablecloth still draped, box-shaped shadow underneath. The guard sprinted. Ethan took 1 step to follow, then froze. On the floor by his shoe, a wallet lay open as if it had fallen in the scramble. He bent and picked it up. Inside there was a driver's license. His own face stared back. The name on the card read, Ethan O. Cole. And in the photo the man wore the same lapel pin. He flipped the wallet. Behind the license was a small plastic sleeve. Inside it there was a hotel staff badge with a different name, Tonia, and a QR code. Theresa's perfume lingered on the leather. Before he could speak, a guest screamed from the hall, voice sharp with discovery, Check his pockets. A second later, a security guard turned Ethan's hand to the light and pointed at the torn document sheet. The section facing up said in bold, Grant of irrevocable authority, and underneath, in clean, careful handwriting, his signature curved across the line. Then a second signature line came into view, Theresa's name already signed in blue. The manager looked from the paper to Ethan, to the camera lens above the door, to the guests pressing forward. Sir, he said, voice suddenly formal. For everyone's safety, I must ask you to come with us now. And as Ethan lifted his eyes, Mara began to run toward him, only for Theresa to move faster and catch the child by the elbow with a grip gentle enough to look loving and strong enough to hold. Don't worry, Theresa said to the room, voice smooth as a fresh road. We will sort this quietly. Mara's beads clicked like a warning drum. And in the doorway at the end of the corridor, The man in Ethan's jacket turned his head just enough for the camera to catch his face again. The same face. He smiled and pushed the trolley through the exit as the power flickered once more and the lock clicked shut. The hall turned chaotic again, gasps, hurried whispers, camera flashes. Everyone wanted to see what was happening, who the real thief was, and how a man could be in two places at once. The tension in the air felt thick, almost solid, like harmattan dust before a storm. Ethan's heart pounded so hard he could hear it echoing in his ears. "That's not me," he said firmly, voice low but steady. "Someone is impersonating me." The hotel manager frowned, trying to maintain control as the crowd swelled closer. "Sir, we need to move to the back office now. Please cooperate." Mara tugged hard on Ethan's sleeve, voice trembling but certain. "Uncle Ethan, that's the man Mommy talks to on the phone. The one she calls Brother Jay. He sounds like you." Theresa's face froze for half a second. Then she recovered, her tone soft and almost tearful. "Mara, stop. Stop lying. You're ruining everything." She turned to the crowd, tears brimming in her eyes. "She's a child. She doesn't understand what she's saying. Please forgive her." Ethan looked down at Mara, then at Theresa. There was fear now behind Theresa's charm, small, sharp fear. Tund leaned close, whispering, "Guy, something is wrong here. This isn't coincidence. Someone planned this." "I know," Ethan said. "And I think I know who's behind it." He turned sharply to Theresa. "You told me you were an orphan, that you had no family except Mara. But who is Brother Jay?" Theresa blinked rapidly, her voice faltering. He's just someone who helps with the charity work. You know that." Mara stepped in front of her mother, defiant. "No. He's the one you said will pretend to be Ethan. You told him he must move fast before Uncle Ethan changes the papers." The hall went dead silent again. Even the ceiling fan seemed to stop turning. Theresa's lips parted, but no sound came. The mask she wore, the calm, confident, flawless woman, began to crack. Her eyes darted to Auntie Kiki, who was suddenly standing at the back of the crowd, trying to melt into the shadows. Ethan's phone vibrated again. Another message from the unknown number appeared. "You shouldn't have listened to the child." Then a video followed, grainy but clear. It showed Theresa and Auntie Kiki sitting in a dimly lit car, parked outside the venue. Theresa's voice came through, low but unmistakable. "He's signing everything tonight. Jay, make sure you're dressed like him. Once the chaos starts, drive out through the back gate." The hall exploded in noise. Theresa lunged forward, snatching the phone from Ethan's hand. "It's fake," she shouted. "Deep fake. It's all fake. They're framing me." But Mara's small voice cut through the noise. "Mommy, please stop lying." Tears rolled down the little girl's cheeks as she whispered, "You said good men are easy to turn. But I told you, God sees you." Theresa's expression hardened instantly, and her hand tightened on Mara's wrist. "That's enough," she snapped. The sweetness was gone now, replaced by something raw, desperate, dangerous. Ethan stepped forward, grabbing Mara's other hand. "Let her go." For a tense moment, mother and man locked eyes, each holding on to the same child. Theresa's voice dropped to a whisper. "If you let me go now, Ethan, I'll disappear quietly. No police, no drama. You don't want this mess tied to your company, do you?" Ethan's grip didn't waver. "You used me. You forged my signature. You tried to trap me. You stole from people who trusted you. You won't disappear this time." Security surrounded them now. The hotel manager signaled 2 guards. "Please escort her to the back office." Theresa suddenly yanked free, pushing Mara backward, and made a dash toward the kitchen exit. Her heels clattered on the tiles, gold lace fluttering like torn wings. A guard lunged, catching her arm. She twisted, slapped him across the face, and broke free again. "Mara," she shouted. "Come here. Let's go." But Mara only shook her head, sobbing. "No, Mommy. Not anymore." The moment shattered whatever spell Theresa had left. 2 guards tackled her near the kitchen door, her clutch flying open, scattering lipstick, papers, and a small flash drive that slid across the floor toward Ethan's shoes. He bent down, picked it up, and stared at it. A tiny red sticker on the drive read, "Plan B." Tund whistled softly. "Bro, that's our proof." The guards handcuffed Theresa as she screamed, "You don't understand. He made me do it. Jay made me do it." Her voice cracked, echoing off the walls. "You'll all regret this. He's not who you think he is." Ethan turned to the hotel manager. "Find that man. Check every camera, every exit. Don't let him leave the compound." The manager nodded and barked orders into his radio. Ethan knelt beside Mara, who was trembling now, small fingers still gripping his sleeve. "You were very brave," he said gently. "You saved me." Mara looked up, eyes red but steady. "I just didn't want you to fall in the ditch." Her words hit him deep. He nodded slowly. "You pulled me out before I fell." But before the moment could soften, one of the guards at the back door shouted, "Sir, the car is gone." The man in the blue suit drove through the service gate. Ethan stood up fast. "What car?" "The silver Lexus Theresa came with," the guard said. "The gatekeeper said the woman already gave him permission." Ethan's pulse spiked. "Then that means—" Tun cut in. "They planned 2 escapes." Ethan looked down at the flash drive in his hand. "Plan B." He handed it to Tund. "Find a laptop. Now." They rushed to the small security room again. The lights flickered as the generator struggled to keep up. Ethan plugged in the drive. A folder popped up instantly, no password, no encryption. It was titled Project Marriage. Inside were dozens of scanned documents, fake company shares, marriage certificates with forged dates and pictures of other men. Some photos showed Theresa with the same brother Jay, laughing beside luxury cars, wearing different wigs, different names. And at the bottom, a video clip. Ethan clicked it. Theresa appeared on screen, smiling into a camera. "If you're watching this, it means the game worked," she said softly. "Ethan Cole is generous, emotional, and easy to lead. He thinks with his heart. After this, Jay and I will split the money and leave the country. Maybe I'll start over again in Ghana." Ethan's stomach twisted. The screen flickered, showing her laughing, counting wads of cash, while Jay's hand appeared in frame, wearing the same lapel pin Ethan had on his jacket. Tund exhaled shakily. She recorded her own evidence. "God is good." Ethan didn't smile. His chest felt heavy. He remembered every word he'd ever said to Theresa, the promises, the plans, the trust. He looked down at Mara. "You heard this before, didn't you?" She nodded. "Yes." She didn't know her old phone recorded it. The hotel manager came in again, sweating. "We've sealed all exits. The man didn't leave the compound, but the car is hidden somewhere inside. We'll find him." Ethan stood tall now, his voice calm but full of steel. "Good. Because if he escapes, everything she said will sound like a lie. And that child's courage will mean nothing." Mama Saad entered quietly, carrying her head wrap in one hand. "You see," she said softly, "when a child speaks from her chest, the earth listens." The room fell silent again. Even the generator hum sounded distant. Ethan turned to Mara. "You'll be safe now. I promise." Mara shook her head slightly. "It's not over. Mommy said Jay has something big planned. She called it the ditch. She said, when he doesn't listen, the ditch will swallow him." Tun frowned. "What ditch?" Before anyone could answer, one of the security guards burst through the door. "Sir." The man in the blue suit just crashed the silver Lexus through the east gate. "He's heading toward the bridge." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Call the police. I'm going after him." Tund grabbed his arm. "Bro, this could be a trap." Ethan's eyes were cold now. "It already is." He turned toward the door. As he stepped out into the night, the wind hit his face with the thick smell of diesel and dust. Somewhere ahead, car tires screeched. And from behind him, Mara's small voice carried through the hallway. "Please come back, Uncle Ethan." He paused only once before running toward the sound of the engine fading into the dark Lagos night. Audience interaction prompt, end of chapter 3. Before we move on, tell me in the comments, what would you have done if a little girl stopped your engagement like Mara did? Would you believe her or think she was lying? And don't forget, if you're enjoying this story, hit the like, subscribe, and share buttons so more people can join us in uncovering this mystery. Also, comment where you're watching from, we'd love to know. Now let's see what happens next, when Ethan chases the man who wears his face. The Lagos night was loud, the kind of night where headlights cut through exhaust haze and generators hummed behind fences. Ethan's shoes slapped the pavement as he sprinted toward the east gate, Tund right behind him. Security guards shouted directions into their radios, trying to coordinate, but the chaos made it sound like a market. "Which way did he go?" Ethan demanded. A guard pointed toward the bridge. "He drove that way, sir. The silver Lexus, license plate covered." Ethan didn't wait. He jumped into his own car, a dark SUV, while Tund slid into the passenger seat. The tires screeched as he accelerated through the gate, headlights slicing the night. Tund gripped the dashboard. "Bro, this doesn't feel right. They want you out here." "I know," Ethan said, eyes locked on the road. "But if that man disappears, Theresa's whole plan will be blamed on me. The road was uneven, flashing with reflections from puddles. Ahead, the red taillights of a silver Lexus glowed faintly through the darkness, weaving fast through the traffic. There! Tun shouted. That's him. Ethan pressed the accelerator. The SUV roared forward, engine straining. Horns blared as he cut through lanes, following the Lexus toward Third Mainland Bridge. The night wind whipped against the windshield, carrying the smell of salt and rain. The Lexus swerved sharply at the foot of the bridge, nearly hitting a bus. For a brief moment, the driver's face flashed in the side mirror under a streetlight. It was Ethan's face. Tun gasped. I swear that's your twin, bro? Ethan's chest tightened. That's no twin. That's the man she called Jay. The Lexus sped onto the bridge, the longest in West Africa, spanning water dark as oil. Ethan followed, tires hissing on wet asphalt. A drizzle began to fall, fine and cold. Tun fumbled with his phone. I'm calling the police now. Stay close to him but don't do anything crazy. But Ethan couldn't hear. His mind was a storm, Theresa's lies, the stolen identity, the child's warnings. Every heartbeat said don't let him get away. The Lexus suddenly slowed. Then without warning it skidded sideways, blocking both lanes. Ethan slammed his brakes, the SUV screeching to a stop. The man stepped out of the Lexus. He wore Ethan's jacket, same lapel pin, same hairstyle, same calm confidence, but when he smiled it was cold. His eyes held no mercy. Ethan Cole, the man said, voice eerily similar. I was wondering how long it would take you. Ethan stepped out slowly, rain tapping his shoulders. Who are you? The man laughed. You really don't know? I'm your shadow. The version Theresa paid to become you. Tun leaned out of the SUV. This guy's mad. Jay ignored him. Theresa wanted a man like you, but smarter, easier to control. She hired me to mirror your life. To learn your voice, your walk, your signature. I studied you for months. Ethan's voice hardened. You forged my documents. You set me up. I perfected you, Jay said simply. You're too trusting. She said love blinds you and she was right. You never saw it coming. Ethan's jaw clenched. Where's the money? Jay smiled faintly. Somewhere safe. Not that it matters. By tomorrow, everyone will believe you ran off with the charity funds. I'll vanish, Theresa will cry on camera, and your empire will crumble. Tun shouted, police are on their way, you lunatic. Jay's smile widened. Then I'll make this quick. He reached into his coat. Ethan. Tun yelled, ducking behind the car. Ethan didn't move. His eyes locked on Jay's hand. Rain pounded harder now. Jay pulled out not a gun, but a remote control. A small black trigger device with a blinking red light. Ethan's heart dropped. What's that? Jay tilted his head. The ditch. In that instant, realization struck, Theresa's earlier words. When he doesn't listen, the ditch will swallow him. Ethan lunged forward just as Jay pressed the button. A thunderous explosion tore through the night. The bridge shook. Fire erupted behind the Lexus. A section of the concrete railing shattered outward, spraying debris into the lagoon. Ethan was thrown to the ground, ears ringing. Tun screamed something but the sound was lost in the blast. Ethan struggled up, coughing through smoke. The Lexus was burning now, flames licking the sky. Jay stood near the edge, hair blown back by heat. You think you can win? Jay shouted over the roar. You fell into the ditch the moment you trusted her. Ethan rushed at him. The two men collided, fists flying. Rain and fire mixed on their faces. Ethan landed a punch. Jay staggered, then kicked back, sending Ethan crashing against the guardrail. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. Jay laughed again, blood on his lip. You're not even angry at her, are you? That's your problem. You still love the woman who sold you out. Ethan's knuckles tightened. I don't love liars. He swung again, this time connecting with Jay's jaw. Jay stumbled backward, too close to the broken railing. His heel slipped. For a heartbeat he hung there, half in the air, rain pouring down his face. Then he fell. The splash below was swallowed by thunder. Ethan leaned over the railing, eyes wide, heart pounding. The water below was dark, endless. There was no sign of Jay. Tun limped up beside him. He's gone. Ethan shook his head slowly. No. Not yet. Police cars arrived, blue lights painting the smoke. Officers jumped out, shouting orders. Ethan and Tun raised their hands, explaining quickly. Within minutes, the fire was under control. The burning Lexus hissed as water hit it. Reporters started arriving, word had spread fast. One officer approached Ethan. Sir, we'll need your statement. Witnesses said you chased the suspect here. Do you confirm? Yes, Ethan said quietly. But the suspect's gone into the lagoon. The officer nodded. We'll alert Marine Police for recovery. As Ethan turned back to his car, his phone buzzed again. One new message, no number. Read. You saved yourself this time. But you'll never wash her love off you. He looked at the bridge, the rain, the black water. The ditch had opened, but he was still standing. Tund placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's go, bro. You've had enough for one night. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, let's go back. Mara's waiting. They drove away as dawn crept over the city. Back at the hotel, police sirens still echoed faintly. Guests were dispersing, shaken. Theresa sat in handcuffs beside a police van, makeup smeared, hair undone. When Ethan stepped out of the SUV, she looked up at him. You killed him, she said, voice hollow. You killed Jay. Ethan met her eyes. No, Theresa. You killed everything yourself. She laughed then, broken, bitter. You think this ends here? You don't know who Jay worked for. Ethan's expression didn't change. Then I'll find out. The officers led her away. Mara ran toward Ethan, wrapping her small arms around his waist. You came back, she whispered, trembling. He knelt and hugged her tightly. You were right about everything, Mara. You saved me. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. Will Mommy go to jail? He hesitated, then said softly, for a while. But maybe one day she'll change. Mara nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. She won't hurt anyone else now. Ethan stood, looking at the rising sun. The city was waking, the chaos fading. But in the quiet of that morning he knew something wasn't over. Because deep down he felt it, Jay hadn't drowned. The ditch was still open. And somewhere out there, the shadow that wore his face was still alive. The next morning broke with a quiet that didn't feel peaceful. It was the kind of silence that came after a storm, thick, waiting, unsure if the rain was truly gone. The hotel courtyard smelled of smoke and wet flowers. The event banners that once read love like no other, now fluttered in the wind, half torn, half hanging on. Ethan sat at a table near the lobby, a bandage on his forehead, a steaming cup of black coffee untouched before him. Mara sat opposite him, her small hands folded neatly, her eyes red from crying but strong in their stillness. You didn't sleep, did you? Ethan asked quietly. Mara shook her head. I dreamed that Mommy was calling me, but she was behind a glass door. I couldn't open it. Ethan nodded slowly. Dreams don't always tell lies. Sometimes they're just echoes. The girl looked up. Will she really go to jail? Yes, he said. But the court will decide how long. She'll have time to think about what she did. Mara looked down at her fingers. I wish she could think without being locked up. Ethan sighed. Maybe one day when she understands the hurt she caused. Just then Tund approached, holding 2 paper cups. His shirt was wrinkled, eyes tired. Bro, I've got updates, he said, dropping into the chair beside Ethan. Police searched the lagoon all night. No body. They think Jay escaped through the water. There was a stolen speedboat missing from a nearby dock. Ethan's chest tightened. So he's still alive. Looks that way. Tund sipped his coffee. They found his fingerprints in the Lexus, though. That's proof he was real. Not a ghost, not a deep fake. Ethan gave a humorless chuckle. Great. Now I've got a living shadow out there with my face. Tund leaned in. We need to protect your image, bro. News stations already picked up the story. Tech CEO almost duped by fiancé. It's trending on X and Instagram. People are asking if it's true. Ethan rubbed his temples. Truth is complicated, Tund. But I'll face it. A police officer approached them, cap tucked under his arm. Mr. Cole, he said respectfully. We've transferred Miss Theresa to state CID. She's cooperating, somewhat. But there's something you need to see. He handed Ethan a small clear evidence bag. Inside was a folded paper, smudged with rain and ash. What's this? Ethan asked. The officer replied. It was found in her clutch bag. Looks like part of her own notes. Ethan unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was Theresa's, flourished, feminine, deliberate. Read. Phase 3, ditch. Jay triggers panic, bridge diversion. Ethan's file destroyed. Backup in the cloud. If plan fails, disappear to Accra. Mara leaned forward, frowning. Accra? That's in Ghana, right? Ethan nodded. Yes. Tund exhaled sharply. So she planned everything down to escape routes. Bro, this woman is dangerous. Ethan's expression darkened. Then we'll finish what she started. If Jay escaped, he'll go where she planned to go. The officer nodded. We'll alert Ghanaian authorities. But you should be careful. Whoever this Jay is, he's skilled. Maybe trained. Ethan stood. I'm not afraid of him. But I'll protect Mara first. The officer smiled faintly. Wise choice. We'll be in touch. When he left, Tun leaned back. So what's the plan? Ethan looked out the window where early traffic hummed beyond the hotel gates. First I'll clear my name. Then I'll track Jay. He's using my face. I'll make sure the world knows the difference. Mara tilted her head. Can I stay with you? Ethan hesitated. You have an aunt, don't you? Someone your mother mentioned? Mara shook her head. Auntie Kiki? She ran away when Mommy got arrested. She's gone. Tun snorted. Of course she ran. That woman's faster than bad news. Ethan smiled faintly, then looked at Mara. Then you'll stay with me for now. Until everything's safe. Her eyes brightened. Really? He nodded. Really? 2 days passed. The media storm raged, but Ethan's company issued a statement clearing him of all charges. Evidence from the flash drive proved his innocence, and public sympathy quickly shifted in his favor. Online headlines changed from tech CEO scandal to child saves man from marriage scam. Mara became a small hero. People sent letters, toys, and messages saying how brave she was. The world had fallen in love with the little girl who warned a man against her own mother. But Ethan couldn't shake the shadow in his chest. Every night, he replayed the moment on the bridge, the explosion, Jay's smirk, the missing body. And every morning, another anonymous message arrived on his phone. Still watching. Love never dies. See you soon. The police traced the numbers, but they came from unregistered SIM cards. On the third night, as rain whispered against the windows of his Lekki apartment, Ethan sat on the sofa beside Mara, watching a cartoon. She laughed quietly at the silly characters. For the first time, she seemed almost like a normal child again. Then the lights flickered. Power's gone, Tun called from the kitchen. I'll start the generator. But Ethan felt it, that sudden chill of being observed. He turned toward the window. The glass reflected his face, and behind it, for half a second, another face, identical, smiling faintly from the darkness outside. Ethan froze. Then lightning flashed and the reflection vanished. Did you see that? He whispered. See what? Tund asked, coming in with a flashlight. Someone was outside. Tund ran to the balcony door, swinging it open. Rain swept in, cold and heavy. The street below was quiet, only puddles and parked cars. No one's here, Tund said. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Ethan looked again. His reflection stared back, distorted by the rain. Maybe. But deep down he knew. Jay was back. That night he couldn't sleep. Every creak, every gust of wind felt like a footstep. When his phone buzzed again at 2 a.m., he hesitated before picking it up. Another message. Check the news. He opened the browser with trembling fingers. The headline hit like a hammer. Witness in billionaire duping case found dead in hotel room, identified as Auntie Kiki. Ethan read the report twice. Kiki had been found poisoned in a guest house on the outskirts of Lagos. No signs of struggle. A suicide note, police said, but he knew better. His phone buzzed again. The ditch isn't done. Mara stirred in her sleep on the couch, hugging her teddy bear. Ethan set the phone down, staring out at the rain again. The storm outside matched the one inside him. He whispered to himself, "You can't hide forever, Jay. I'll find you." But somewhere far away, in a dim apartment lit by a single lamp, a man with Ethan's face smiled at the news report. Jay poured himself a drink, lifted it toward the camera on his laptop and said softly, "Let the next game begin." He clicked send on an email with the subject line, Phase 4, Return of the Ditch. And attached below it was a photo, Ethan and Mara asleep on the sofa, taken from outside their window that very night. The morning light crept into the apartment like a thief, thin, quiet, and pale. Ethan sat awake on the couch, eyes fixed on the same email Jay had sent hours earlier. The image of him and Mara sleeping still glowed on the laptop screen. His hand trembled slightly as he scrolled to the message's signature. Phase 4, Return of the Ditch. Tund walked in yawning, a mug of coffee in hand. "You haven't slept, have you?" Ethan didn't answer. He just turned the laptop toward him. Tund's eyes widened. "What's that?" "He was outside the apartment," Ethan said flatly. "Took this picture last night. Look at the timestamp, 2:14 a.m. Tund cursed under his breath. "So Jay's alive and he knows where you live." Ethan nodded. "And he's watching us. He's escalating." Tund rubbed his temples. We need to move, bro, change apartments, maybe leave town for a bit. Ethan's eyes hardened. No. Running gives him power. He wants me scared. He wants control. Not this time. Mara shuffled into the room, still in her cartoon pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Uncle Ethan, did the lights come back? He forced a smile. Yes, princess. Go brush your teeth and eat breakfast, okay? She nodded and walked off, humming faintly. As soon as she disappeared down the hall, Ethan whispered, I won't let him get close to her again. We need police protection, maybe a private investigator. I know someone, Tun said quickly. Detective Yomi, retired CID. He helped my cousin track a fraud syndicate last year. I'll call him. Within 2 hours, Detective Yomi arrived. A tall, serious man in his 50s with calm eyes and a sharp mind. He shook Ethan's hand firmly. I've read about your case, Mr. Cole. Quite the story. But it's not over, is it? Ethan exhaled. Not by a long shot. They sat around the dining table. Ethan showed him the emails, the text, the photo, and the threatening message. Yomi listened in silence, occasionally jotting notes. This Jay, Yomi said after a long pause. He's not working alone. Someone is funding him, feeding him your data. He has access to your personal life, your habits, your schedule. You mean someone inside my company? Ethan asked. Or someone close to you, Yomi replied. Criminals like this don't work without inside help. Have you noticed anything missing? Any signs of hacking? Tun nodded. His phone's been acting weird. Random restarts, new messages from unknown numbers. I thought it was stress. Yomi's brow furrowed. He's tracking you, maybe even through your devices. Let's start there. He pulled a small scanner from his bag, waving it across Ethan's laptop and phone. After a few seconds, the device beeped softly. Found it? Yomi said grimly. Small tracking chip embedded in your phone's casing. He can see your location in real time. Ethan's stomach tightened. How did he even get access? Tun snapped his fingers. Wait, remember when your phone went missing for 2 hours at the engagement hall? You said a waiter found it near the stage. Ethan's face paled. Yes. Jay must have planted it then, Yomi said. And he's been one step ahead ever since. He removed the chip carefully, sealing it in a small evidence pouch. We'll use this to trace him. But for now, stay alert. This man doesn't just want to scare you, he wants to destroy you completely. Ethan nodded slowly. Then I'll destroy his plan first. That night, the rain came again, steady, unrelenting. Mara had fallen asleep early, curled up with her teddy bear. Tun dozed off on the couch. Ethan stood at the balcony, phone pressed to his ear. Detective, any progress? Yes, Yomi said. We traced one of Jay's emails to a cyber cafe in Surulere. CCTV shows a man matching your description entering around 8 p.m. But he wasn't alone. There was a woman. Ethan frowned. A woman? Older, maybe late 40s. Wore a wig. Hard to identify. Could be Theresa's contact, or Kiki's handler. She used a stolen ID to book time. They left together. Did you get their vehicle? Yes. A blue Toyota Camry. We're tracking the plate. As he hung up, thunder rolled across the sky. He turned to check on Mara, still sleeping soundly. But something felt off. The air in the room had changed. He stepped closer. The window was slightly open. He was sure he'd locked it earlier. A faint draft moved the curtains. Ethan's pulse quickened. He looked down at the floor and froze. A wet footprint. Fresh. He turned quickly. The balcony door stood ajar. Jay, Ethan whispered. Before he could reach the door, a shadow moved behind him. A gloved hand clamped over his mouth. Another grabbed his wrist, twisting it painfully. Hello, Ethan, Jay's voice hissed close to his ear. Miss me? Ethan struggled, elbowing backward hard. Jay grunted but didn't let go. They stumbled into the living room, knocking over a lamp. Tun jolted awake, shouting, What the Ethan? Jay released Ethan and shoved him into the coffee table. Stay out of this, Tund, he snarled, pulling a small knife from his belt. Tund grabbed a vase ready to throw. Try me, fake man. Jay smirked. Still funny, aren't you? He slashed forward, but Ethan rolled aside, grabbing a broken lampstand as a weapon. You're not winning this time, Ethan said through clenched teeth. Jay laughed. I already did. You're chasing shadows while the real plan moves. The real plan? Jay grinned, stepping closer. Phase 5, Ethan. The fall of your empire. While you chase me, your company bleeds. You'll wake up tomorrow and find your accounts frozen, your investors gone. Theresa gave me everything I needed before she was arrested. Ethan's eyes widened. You're lying. Jay tilted his head. Check your email. Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, his stomach dropping. Notifications flooded his screen. Unauthorized wire transfer detected. Access denied. Security breach. Corporate account locked. Jay smiled cruelly. The ditch wasn't about money, Ethan. It was about power. Rage exploded through Ethan. He swung the lampstand, striking Jay's shoulder. The fake staggered backward, dropping the knife. Tund rushed forward, tackling him. They fell hard, crashing into a glass shelf. Jay twisted free, punching Tund in the jaw. Ethan lunged, grabbing Jay's arm. The two men wrestled, their reflections blurring in the rain-streaked window. Then Mara screamed from the hallway. Stop it. Both men froze. Mara stood trembling, clutching her teddy bear. Please don't fight. Uncle Ethan, he'll hurt you. Jay looked at her and smirked. Ah, the little prophet. Ethan stepped between them. Don't you dare touch her. But Jay only laughed, backing toward the open window. I don't need to. You've already lost everything that made you safe. Then, before Ethan could move, Jay leapt backward through the window, disappearing into the rain-soaked darkness below. Ethan rushed to the balcony, looking down. The street was empty except for the pounding rain. No body, no sound, just the echo of retreating footsteps fading into the night. Tund groaned, rubbing his jaw. Bro, that guy's a ghost. Ethan looked down at his shaking hands. No, he's real. And he just declared war. Mara ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist, crying. Please don't go after him again. He bent down, hugging her tightly. I won't, he whispered, though his eyes burned with something different, vengeance. Hours later, Detective Yomi returned. We traced the car to a compound in Acadia, he said. Abandoned warehouse. Jay's been there recently. We found prints, food, even photos of your house. Ethan's face hardened. Then that's where we finish it. Yomi shook his head. No. Let the police handle it. But Ethan's tone was final. He made it personal. Tund placed a hand on his shoulder. If you go, I go. Ethan nodded once. As dawn crept in, the three men prepared to leave. Ethan kissed Mara's forehead gently as she slept. You're safe, he whispered. I'll make sure of it. Outside, the first rays of sunlight cut through the mist. The city stirred awake, unaware that two identical men were about to end their battle. One of truth, one of deceit. And somewhere inside the abandoned warehouse, Jay loaded a gun, humming softly to himself. Let the ditch swallow the man who thinks he can climb out twice. And if you've been following this story so far, hit like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss the final chapters. Your support keeps these African folktale thrillers alive. The warehouse in Acadia was silent except for the distant drip of rainwater through the rusted roof. The dawn mist wrapped the compound like a secret, hiding shadows behind cracked walls and broken windows. Ethan parked his SUV a short distance away. Tund and Detective Yomi stepped out with him, flashlights in hand. This place gives me chills, Tund whispered, scanning the surroundings. Stay sharp, Yomi said, voice low. Jay's unpredictable. He could be watching already. Ethan's eyes swept the compound gate, half open, padlock hanging loose, chain cut clean. He could feel it in his bones. Jay wanted him to come. This is a trap, Yomi murmured. I know, Ethan replied. But it ends here. They entered quietly, their footsteps crunching on broken glass and gravel. Inside, the air smelled of engine oil, dust, and damp concrete. A faint flicker of light came from an inner room. Yomi motioned for them to spread out. Tund stayed close to Ethan, gripping a metal pipe like a weapon. As they moved deeper, voices echoed from a corridor, two men talking, low but tense. We leave by noon, one voice said. Ghana borders clear. The new IDs are ready. Ethan's pulse quickened. He recognized that voice. The second voice was rougher. And the money? Jay's tone was calm. Already transferred to the offshore account. But our guest still owes me an audience. Ethan froze. He's talking about me. Yomi raised a finger for silence, then gestured toward the inner chamber. They crept closer, the dim light growing brighter as they neared. Through a gap in the wall, Ethan finally saw him. Jay sat at a table covered in papers, laptops, and phones. He was wearing a black shirt this time, no jacket, no disguise, but his resemblance to Ethan was still chilling. Beside him stood a tall man with a scar down his cheek, holding a pistol. Jay looked up suddenly, smiling as if he had smelled Ethan's presence. You're late, he said. His voice carried easily through the space. Come in, Ethan. I hate repeating myself. Yomi drew his gun instantly, but Ethan motioned for him to wait. "I'll talk first," he said. They stepped into the open. The scarred man raised his pistol, but Jay waved a hand lazily. "Put it down, Sam. He's not here to shoot. He's too noble for that." Ethan's gaze locked on Jay. "It's over. The police know everything. Theresa's in custody, your trail's exposed, and your plan failed." Jay chuckled. "Failed? No, Ethan. You don't see the full picture. I wanted Theresa caught. She was the bait. You think she was the mastermind? She was the emotional trigger. Every empire needs a distraction before the real theft." Ethan frowned. "What are you talking about?" Jay leaned back, crossing his legs. "While everyone was watching your love life fall apart, I was busy inside your system. Remember the merger documents you sent 2 months ago? The ones your assistant handled?" Ethan's mind raced. "Yes, what about them?" "I cloned your digital identity through those files," Jay said with a grin. "Every authorization, every password. By the time you were planning a wedding, I was already signing contracts as you." Tun swore under his breath. "So you're saying?" "I own your company now," Jay interrupted smoothly. "Well, technically the fake you does. By next week, the board will transfer control to Ethan Cole Holdings, which I manage. You'll be erased." Ethan's throat tightened. "You won't get away with this." Jay smiled wider. "I already did. But don't feel bad. It's poetic. Your generosity built a world that devoured you. You trust too easily. You love too deeply. You listen too late. Then why not kill me and finish it?" Ethan asked. Jay's eyes gleamed. "Because that would be mercy." He stood slowly, pulling a small device from his pocket. "Another remote, like the one on the bridge. I'd rather you watch everything crumble. You'll live, but you'll have nothing." Yomi stepped forward, gun raised. "Drop it. Now." Jay sighed, feigning disappointment. "Detective Yomi, right? I've read your file. 2 commendations, 1 suspension, and a weakness for gambling. How's your debt these days?" Yomi stiffened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," Jay said softly. "Everyone has a price. Theresa had hers. Maybe you'll find yours soon." Ethan's patience snapped. "Enough." He lunged, slamming Jay into the wall. The remote clattered to the floor. They struggled fiercely, fists, elbows, knees. Jay fought dirty, gouging, twisting, biting. But Ethan's rage was stronger now, raw, desperate. Tund kicked the scarred man's gun away, tackling him as Yomi moved to cover the exit. Jay laughed even as Ethan pinned him. "Still fighting for morals? You're predictable, Ethan." Ethan's fist crashed into his jaw. "And you're done pretending to be me." Jay spat blood, smiling through split lips. "Am I? Look around. The world already believes in me more than they ever did in you." He twisted suddenly, grabbing Ethan's wrist and flipping him over. Ethan hit the floor hard, gasping. Jay snatched the remote, thumb hovering over the button. "Say goodbye to your empire," he hissed. But before he could press it, Yomi fired. The bullet hit Jay's shoulder, spinning him around. The remote flew from his hand and skidded across the floor. Jay fell against the table, knocking over the laptops. Sparks flashed as wires tore loose. Tund grabbed the remote, kicking it out of reach. "End of story, fake man." Jay groaned, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers, but his smile didn't fade. "You think I need a button? The system's already in motion. Check your phone, Ethan." Ethan hesitated, pulling out his phone. A flood of notifications appeared. Account closures, revoked licenses, news alerts claiming Ethan Cole investigated for financial fraud. Jay coughed, laughing weakly. "The ditch isn't about holes in the ground, my friend. It's the pit you dig for yourself with trust." Ethan's eyes burned. "You're done, Jay. Even if you break me, I'll rebuild. Because I have something you'll never have, truth." Jay's smirk faltered for the first time. "Truth doesn't pay rent." Before Ethan could answer, police sirens echoed outside. Yomi turned toward the sound. "Backup's here." Jay's partner tried to run, but Tun tackled him again. Yomi cuffed both men quickly. Jay slumped against the wall, still breathing hard. "You win this round," he muttered. "But the ditch never ends." As officers entered, Ethan looked down at him. "Then maybe I'll build a bridge over it." Jay's laugh turned into a cough. "Maybe. But bridges burn too." The police dragged him out. Ethan watched silently, chest heaving, rain seeping through the broken roof onto his face. Yomi patted his shoulder. "You did good, son. But the war's not over. Men like him don't stop, they wait." Ethan nodded faintly. "Then I'll be ready." Later that evening Ethan returned home. Mara ran to him the moment he walked through the door, eyes wide with fear and relief. "Uncle Ethan," she cried, hugging him tightly. "You're okay." He knelt, holding her close. "Yes, I am. It's over. Is the bad man gone?" "For now," he said softly. "But even if he comes back, we'll be ready." Mara smiled, small but bright. "Mommy used to say shadows can't live without light." Ethan smiled back. "Then we'll be the light." Outside, thunder rumbled once more in the distance, but this time Ethan didn't flinch. He looked out the window at the city lights, knowing the worst storm had passed. But deep inside, a single question lingered. Was Jay truly gone? And somewhere, in a dark hospital room miles away, a nurse checked on an injured patient. The man's arm was bandaged, his face partially hidden beneath gauze. When she turned away, his lips curved into a faint smile. "Phase 5, rebirth," he whispered. The heart monitor beeped steadily, marking the rhythm of a shadow that refused to die. 3 months later, the Lagos skyline glittered like gold beneath the setting sun. New towers rose where old ones crumbled, and for once, the city seemed calm again. But inside Ethan's mind, peace was still something distant, something he was learning to rebuild one day at a time. The chaos of the past months had reshaped his life. The courts had cleared him of all fraud charges after Jay's arrest. Theresa remained in prison, awaiting trial for fraud, identity manipulation, and attempted theft. Auntie Kiki's death had been officially ruled a murder, and Jay's fingerprints had been found at the scene. Yet, despite the victories, Ethan didn't celebrate. He'd lost more than money, he'd lost his faith and trust. That evening, Ethan stood by the balcony of his Lekki apartment, watching Mara play in the small garden below. She was different now, brighter, happier, her laughter echoing like bells across the compound. The pain of betrayal had not broken her spirit, it had only made her wiser. Tun stepped onto the balcony beside Ethan, holding 2 glasses of Zobo. "You're getting old, bro," he teased. "Standing here every evening, staring at the horizon like a man waiting for credits to roll." Ethan chuckled lightly. "Credits don't roll until the story ends." Tund raised a brow. "And you think yours hasn't?" Ethan took a sip, his gaze still on Mara. "Jay's alive. I can feel it. He's out there waiting." Tund sighed. "We both saw the report. Jay escaped from the hospital ward. But Yomi's team is tracking him across borders. There's nowhere left for him to hide." Ethan's jaw tightened. "There's always somewhere to hide when you know how shadows work." Tund leaned against the railing. "So what now? You keep living scared, waiting for him to appear?" Ethan shook his head. "No. I'm done waiting. I'm going to build something new. Something he can't destroy." He turned toward the living room where a laptop sat open on the dining table. On the screen was the logo of a new foundation, Mara Light Foundation, empowering children with truth. Tund smiled. "You really did it." Ethan nodded. "This is how I fight back. By turning pain into purpose." The next morning, Ethan and Mara visited the Women's Correctional Center in Kirikiri. The guards led them down a quiet corridor lined with faded walls. At the end of the hall sat Theresa, dressed in a simple prison uniform, her beauty now softened by months of silence. She looked up as they entered. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Hello, Mom," Mara said softly. Theresa's lips trembled. "Mara." She reached out, but the chains at her wrist stopped her. "You've grown." "I'm still me," Mara whispered. "Uncle Ethan brought me." Theresa's eyes filled with tears. "You shouldn't have. You shouldn't see me like this." Ethan's voice was calm, almost detached. "She wanted to." Theresa turned to him, pain and regret crossing her face. "You came to see your victory?" Ethan shook his head. "No. I came for closure." She laughed weakly. "Closure? You think you can close what love opened?" Ethan's eyes softened for the first time. "I loved the woman I thought you were. Not the one you became. I forgive you, Theresa. Not because you deserve it, but because Mara deserves peace." Theresa broke then. Tears streamed freely down her face. "I didn't mean for it to go that far, Ethan. I just wanted a better life for me and my daughter. I didn't know how else to get it." "By stealing someone else's?" he asked quietly. She looked away. "I thought I could change things later. I thought love could excuse the crime." Mara's small voice interrupted. "Mommy, I still love you. But love shouldn't hurt people." Theresa looked at her daughter for a long, trembling moment, then smiled through her tears. "You're braver than I ever was." The guard announced that time was up. Ethan nodded and rose. "Goodbye, Theresa." She looked at him one last time. He'll come for you, Ethan, she whispered. Jay. He doesn't forgive betrayal. Not even mine. Ethan paused. If he comes, I'll be ready. As they walked out, Mara slipped her hand into his. Uncle Ethan, do you think Mommy will be okay? He looked down at her. Maybe one day. But for now, we just have to keep walking. Weeks passed. Ethan's foundation grew quickly. The story of the little girl who saved a man from her own mother had gone viral across Africa and the diaspora. Donations poured in, and soon the Mara Light Foundation began funding education for orphans and children in poor communities. But one night, as Ethan closed his laptop after a long day of work, his phone buzzed again. A message. No number. No greeting. Just 5 words. Did you miss the ditch? Ethan froze. The message was followed by an attachment, a short video. He hesitated before pressing play. The screen lit up with grainy CCTV footage. A familiar figure walked into a dim airport lobby, wearing a hoodie and carrying a passport. The face turned briefly toward the camera. It was Jay. He was alive. Boarding a flight. Destination, Accra. Ethan's breath caught. The ghost had returned to the land where the plan had begun. He turned off the phone and stood at the window, watching the lights of the city blink like restless eyes. Mara's laughter floated from the next room. It grounded him, reminded him that light still existed. He whispered to himself, this time I won't fall. The ditch won't take me again. Outside, thunder rolled far away, low and distant, like a promise of storms yet to come. Ethan smiled faintly, turned off the lights, and whispered to the night, let the shadow come. Because now Ethan wasn't just the man who had been deceived. He was the man who had learned how to see in the dark. And somewhere across the ocean, on a flight bound for Ghana, Jay looked out the window and smiled too. Phase 6 begins. If you were Ethan, would you forgive Theresa like he did, or would you let her face justice without mercy? And what do you think Jay's Phase 6 will be about? Comment your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this story. Your support keeps these African folktale thrillers alive, and the next tale might just reveal what happens after the ditch.